Napa Know How.
Right now, Napa Legend batteries come with a $15 rebate by mail. Their long-lasting durability stands up to extreme conditions. So even on scorching days, it'll puff its chest out and be all like, hey, summer heat, find another car battery to drain. Napa Legend batteries with $15 mail-in rebate. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa Know How.
Napa Know How.
At participating Napa Auto Parts stores. Offer expires 8/31/18.
Tonight. Alright! We're gonna have a TV party, alright! Tonight!
We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight! Alright! We'll pass out on the couch, alright!
Tonight! We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't want to know. We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
And tonight, our favorite show, kind of, maybe, sort of, not really, is Legion. Season 2, brought to you by the good people at Marvel and FX. The season premiered in Los Angeles on April 2nd, 2018, before it debuted on the FX channel on April 3rd. It was 11 episodes this time around, and it concluded this past June 12th. We're getting around to it now because movies and reasons. This is a series that takes place in the X-Men film series, which is splintered and makes no sense to begin with, so why should this show? Joining me on this tour of schizophrenia and drama is my good friend, comic book enthusiast in his own right, the disapproving dad, and the host of Source Material, Jesse Starcher. Come on down!
I have come here for answers, sir. You better have them ready to go, because I want answers on everything that's happened in this second season of Legion.
All right, well, that's our show, everybody.
There are none. No answers.
I have just a few words for you that really sum up this entire series, and that's Aubrey Plaza's naked ass.
My goodness. Now, if anything I took away from season 1
is Rachel Keller's naked ass.
Yes, that was one of them. But the second thing was I could listen to Aubrey Plaza say finger bang at least 10 times a day. Perfect. I would be just set me off in the morning 10 times. That's all she has to say. I'm good to go for the rest of the day.
Is that like one of your ringtones? It's like if I call you, do you just hear finger bang?
No, sir. It's got to be indulged privately. So I'm not going to have that out. You can't, it'd be really awkward.
Can't be in the middle of Home Depot hearing Aubrey Plaza calling out the finger bang.
But yes. So Aubrey Plaza kicks it up a notch in this season, which is perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, I could watch Aubrey Plaza crawl naked out of a hole over and over and over again. That's some hot stuff.
Rewind. Yes, sir. But yes, well, other than that, there was other stuff that happened in this season.
Was there? I couldn't make heads or fucking tails of it. All right, so just to sum up of the previous season dealt with David Haller, Legion, played by the one and only Dan Stevens, the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, as a matter of fact. The $1 billion affair from last year. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not.
Yeah, actually, when I took my kids to go see Beauty and the Beast last year, and I realized that he was the Beast, I'm like, oh look, is everyone? It's Legion. Anyway, so the whole first season really deals with: is he schizophrenic, or is it that he hears voices, or is it even worse that he's being manipulated by a parasitic demon type character? And it turns out, it's all three. by the end of season 1, he is excised Amal Farouk, the Shadow King, from his psyche. He, of course, latches on to Oliver, who had been trapped in the astral plane, who is Melanie's husband, boyfriend, beau, whatever. So the Shadow King takes over Oliver's body. Him and Audrey Plaza take off, and that's where that's where season 1 ends. Oh, and then we also have the other issue of, just when you think David's got it all figured out and he's mastered his powers and he's not crazy, he gets captured by a floating globe and gone into the hinterlands.
Wait a second. I forgot all about that. I mean, tell me how that... I don't even remember that coming up in the first episode at all.
So they defeated the Shadow King, right? And so he takes off with... So Oliver takes off with Audrey Plaza, right?
Yep.
And at this point, Oliver's the Shadow King. And then so David and Sid are just hanging out on the deck, and they're like, "Well, we gotta go after him. We'll figure this out." And then this floating globe comes over to where David is and zaps him with a ray and shrinks him and takes him inside the globe, and the globe floats off, and you're left with Sid just yelling for David.
Okay, so do we pick up where that leaves off in this season at all?
Kind of. Basically, what the season picks up where this is a year has passed.
Gotcha. Okay. So he got abducted by UFOs, little butt diddling happened, and then what happened?
Okay, so I'm just going to read you, and I apologize to people listening to the show. We are going to try to keep it conversational and just kind of talk about things like we've done. I really don't want to do an episode-by-episode breakdown because my fucking brain will melt. But just to answer your question, it's just easier if I read you the synopsis here on the Wikipedia page.
Absolutely.
A year after Amu Farouk, the Shadow King, we are the nation of domination, escaped in the body of Oliver Bird, and David Haller was kidnapped by a strange orb, the mutants of Summerland and the government agency Division 3 race against Farouk to find his original body, which would allow him to unleash his full power. Farouk is also infecting people with a mental virus, the Catalyst, that freezes their bodies but causes their teeth to continually chatter. David appears in a nightclub, claiming that only hours have passed since his kidnapping. He tries to find Farouk telepathically using a device created by scientist Carrie Loudermilk to increase the range of his abilities, but instead relives a memory from the nightclub of a strange monk and a dance battle with Oliver and Lenny Busker. David gives his girlfriend Sid Barrett a compass that will always lead her to him and promises not to keep secrets from her, but does not tell her of the future version of her that sent the orb. There you go.
Oh, okay.
And told him to help Farouk find his body. That night, David's mind meets with Oliver and Lenny's in the nightclub. So, Here's the setup for this season. Okay? The Shadow King in Oliver's body is trying to find his real body so that way he can be at full power. They are initially trying to stop that because the Shadow King is evil. Except that Sid from the future explains to David that there's going to be... David... I know there's going to be a thing where... something's going to happen to the world, and if the Shadow King had been present and able to access his abilities, he could have stopped it. But because, I'll read this. There she explains that David will kill Farouk within a week, but then a plague will kill all the humans on the planet, and Farouk could have helped them stop it. Returning to the present, Dave confronts Farouk, who agrees to no longer kill people in exchange for David's continued cooperation. David tells Sid what he's doing, and she agrees that they should do as the future self says. So that's kind of the season, in a nutshell, is the search for... part of it, a large part of it is the search for the body. They need the monk, they need to find the monastery, and all of these things lead to where the body is. And then once they get the body, what are they going to do with it? This all leads to a conclusion wherein... Sid ends up being captured, and David tortures Oliver, who, that's...
Oh, man, does he ever.
At one point, he's... At one point, Farouk is still in the body. At another point, he's controlling Melanie. At another point, he finally gets into his body. The final episode, the season finale, ends with them in a fight. But Lenny uses the choke to help subdue the Shadow King, which he does. But at this point, Sid realizes that David is the true villain. I think David's in the future responsible for the plague.
Yep.
Which is also part of the problem. So she goes to shoot David, but Lenny, in a ninja move, shoots the bullet that knocks it out. And then this all leads to David deciding that, the delusion that David is under is that he is a good person who deserves love. And so he manipulates her memories. They end up having sex, which is essentially a sexual assault. And when word gets out, it's all been decided. They're going to let the Shadow King live because they might need him for whatever plague is coming. But David either has to submit to treatment so that he doesn't eventually poison the world, or they're going to kill him. At which point he says, "Fuck your couch." He rescues Lenny, and off they disappear. And that is how the season ends.
Whew. What a roller coaster ride of visually stunning cinematography in these episodes. But again, if you are a person who has, something of an infatuation with linear storytelling, ladies and gentlemen,
this is not the show for you.
No, it's not. My wife would rather sit down and watch, like 20 Lifetime movies in a day, than sit here and try to muddle through this show with me. But she was a trooper and stuck by my side. But I know she at the end of everything, she's just like, I don't know what the hell's going on. We got, here comes the Minotaur. I'm like, oh, I don't know how it fits in, Mindy. Just kind of bear with it. That's that's obviously a bad thing. Why is Farouk and him battling like they're cartoons? We're just going to have to sit back and enjoy the ride that we're taking. It's so the correct term I think that I've seen mostly used is mind bending. Mm-hmm. It is a very unique way of telling a story, and especially bringing a comic book character to life. This is not your typical Marvel superhero that you're going to see on the big screen in any way. No. There is just I think that this show is it has to win some type of award when it comes to the just the way that each show was laid out and how they got across certain themes and certain settings. Like every setting was just like a masterpiece drawing of some kind of crazy whacked out 70s 70s setting, I guess I would say. It's just or a painting almost. But yeah. Go ahead. I interrupted you, but I just want to get that out there, man. When you left season 1, you knew what you were going to get with season 2 when it came to visuals on the small screen. But when it came to storytelling, it was somewhat the same as what we got in season 1. I'd almost say even more abstract in this season.
Yeah, let me say that I think you're wrong there. I actually thought, because the first season really dealt with David's psychosis.
Okay.
And when they figured out it was the Shadow King, it became a little bit more clear what was happening. But the first season I thought was extremely abstract, and I actually really liked the first season for that reason. Let me go back a step and first say this is not my favorite show. This is a chore for me to watch.
Yeah, it's tough. It is. It really is.
I don't.
At the end, you're just sitting there scratching your head. Go ahead.
I don't do well with abstract. I really don't. Like Weeds is more my speed. I'm right before we started tonight. I started rewatching Harlot season 2. A show about a bunch of 19th century British whores. That's more my speed. You know, but I understand the attraction to the abstract, and I like the idea that for all the criticisms of the superhero genre, I like the fact that they use this as an opportunity to do something very different with a superhero, with a comic book character. Because essentially it's a guy with powers, but they're doing all these other things with him, and just from a visual aspect, the show can be both a headache and a joy to watch. I think on the one hand, they do the visuals can be so interesting, and I think if you appreciate any degree of art, hang on, give me 1/2 a second.
Yeah.
Cord did not reach as far as I needed it to. If you you can really appreciate sort of the use of the artistic medium in a television program. Much like you don't really see this in much of what's on TV today. This was a very, very different show. On the other hand, I feel like there are times where they're sitting in a writer's room and they're just like, well, we have no limits because the show is all psychological and avant-garde. That, here's a scene where a kangaroo is playing poker with a dead body, and then the next scene, a map goes on fire. What does that have to do with anything? Well, reasons. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, look, a donkey is chasing a baby. All right.
I have no idea what that means, but it must mean something.
Right.
That's what you see, and a lot of the people are watching this are going, okay, that means something, or they're just like, well, that crazy Legion show again. Girlie's got a mustache. All right, then.
Yeah, I don't understand why that was necessary. Why Fukuyama had to have a basket on his head.
Yeah, there's so much that you're just like, this is so odd.
Yeah. So it's kind of the anti-superhero show, you know what I mean? Like if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., for example, is very much the typical, here's the bad guy, here are your good guys, there's a chase, resolution, lobster. This is very much antithetical to that, where David is on that line where, is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy? Is he crazy? I don't know. And like both seasons now have really toyed with the idea of, we don't really know what David is.
Yeah.
The Shadow King is certainly painted as a bad guy, but he's not an unreasonable person. When they ask, what are you going to do with all your power? He just says, I'm just going to live. I'm going to be comfortable.
What else? What else do you expect him to do?
Well, he's not looking to take over the universe or anything. He's not looking to enslave the human race. He's just like, I'm just going to be. I'm going to be me. I'm an all-powerful me. Like, okay. To the point where you start questioning why, what happened with him and Charles Xavier and why Charles Xavier chose to attack him. Everything is on this sort of, what's the word? Moral fence. Like, you don't really know what's right or wrong in this show, which, like I said, by itself is pretty interesting. It's, like I said, it's not my favorite show, but I see the value in it. And there are parts of it that I really like and I really enjoy. And I want to talk about the season finale in just a minute. And then there are other of it where I'm just like, oh my God, I'd rather hit myself in the dick with a hammer than have to watch 5 more minutes of this show.
I certainly wasn't there, sir. I was not. It was a. Did you ask me a question or did you just make a statement? Because I was looking over my notes and I totally missed it. I mean, there were moments where I was like, okay, I'm very invested in this show. I wanted to know what was going to happen with David. I wanted to know if he was going to be the bad guy. And you remember that message I sent you?
Mm-hmm.
You asked me. Oh well, of course. I told you. I said there's a spin on this, or
yes.
A plot element in this that I really like.
When Jesse Starcher asks you a question, doesn't matter what the question is. The answer is always time travel.
That's exactly right.
Jesse, what's 2 times 2? Time travel. Jesse, who was the president of the first president of the United States? Time travel.
I'm not wrong. So, but no, that was, I was like, oh man, there's this neat element of, Sid coming back from the future, or projecting herself back from the future, and telling, trying to get a hold of David to try and avert this disaster that apparently happens. So that's just like you said, that sets us off on in the course of this whole season. And man, I got to thinking about some of the visual and audio effects that they used when they would do the whole conversation between either David and Sid from the future, or the Shadow King and Sid from the future. Is very unsettling. Like, you'd be sitting there and you wondered if it was like your picture was jumping on your screen.
Right.
Something wrong with my cable? Anyway.
Well, let me jump back in here for a second, because we were talking about the differences between season 1 and season 2, and I kind of got off track. Here's the thing. I accepted a lot of the nuttiness of season 1, but I thought season 1 was actually a more straightforward story. You had Division 3, which wanted David. You had Summerland, which was trying to save David, and then you had the story within a story of what is David's mind. Okay, is it that he's been infected with this parasite? Is it that he's schizophrenic? Is it that he's just a very powerful mutant who can't control his powers? What is it? What is the nature of David's mind? And as each episode progressed, there was always the question of the unreliable narrator. You never, I was convinced Sid wasn't real at one point.
Yeah, same here.
That Sid was absolutely a delusion that he had come up with. There was who was Lenny really? Was Lenny really a patient in the mental hospital? Was she, his drug buddy? Was she a representation of the Shadow King? What was Lenny Busker? You never knew what was real and what wasn't. But as things progressed, especially the last couple of episodes where it's just all fighting, but it's in real time, it's happening in a matter of seconds, but within those seconds is this bigger story happening on like the astral plane. So going into season 2, I thought, okay, well, they can't do that again. They more or less straightened this out. So David can't. I didn't think they would continue to play with the idea of David's crazy, which in a way they didn't. They were like, okay, well, we're not going to deal with his psyche anymore. We've sort of resolved that issue. But what about David's morality? What about his moral compass? Is David the kind of person who is going to let his powers take control of him and allow him to do heinous things to the world? What is David from a moral standpoint, now that we know what he is from a psychological one? And I thought the idea of, at the very end of season 2, Sid says to him, yes, you have these great powers, but you're also sick. Yeah. The only thing that's changed is you're no longer being manipulated by a parasite. That you're no longer feeding this parasite, the Shadow King, but you're still a not well individual with a broken moral compass. And to see, but to go back to the style of the second season, I thought it was actually more abstract and more annoying at times than the first season. There's a couple of episodes in there where I'm just like, what are we doing here? When they early on, when they did the fucking dance thing, I almost gave up. I almost wrote to you and was like, we're not doing this anymore. I can't take it.
What the hell is this shit?
Because again, that's just such a Hollywood thing. It's just we have the power to do anything we want. We're writing such an abstract show. We can create any scene, any bit of dialogue. The world is our oyster. We are trapped by nothing but our imaginations. How about a dance contest? Fuck you, Hollywood.
I liked it. I didn't think it was that bad. I think it was
it's played out.
Well, okay, yes, they got to have all that in every episode of every hot TV show or something. But I saw it as a neat way of representing this battle that was going on between the two. Because this was a dance off between Farouk and David, right?
Right.
If I remember correctly. And these two are, instead of showing us, a bunch of weapons being drawn and armor being placed on them in an actual fight, instead they choose to visualize it as that, which I think it's a neat way of taking the psychological aspect of this show, the way that they try to make you, not only is it just a trip into the minds of the characters, it's an interesting to get into the mind of the interesting way of getting into the mind of the viewer as well, because they have to show and make you understand that this is crazy and whacked out for a reason. This is the insane mind of David Haller and the mind of Farouk. This is what goes on in there. It's odd, it's crazy, it's funky. So that to me fit well with these two characters in this show. Now, granted, you like you said, you could say that, well, I've seen it on Glee. Well, Glee's kind of meant for that, but you see it on all sorts of different shows that we've watched throughout the past couple years. But I think, again, it was a format that fit well here. But I understand, isn't Calandros kind of a little upset with that as well? Like the singing and dancing, wasn't it a
Yes.
Flash episode where he was like, "Fuck this"?
Yeah, it was the duet episode.
Oh boy. At least it wasn't a whole episode. It was just a battle.
Did it occur to you at any point during this that I don't feel like they had like enough story for season 2? Like
Yes.
they focused way too much on chasing down the body, so they had to come up with these other subplots, like creating a body for Lenny out of Amy's body. Mm-hmm. And then there's 2 episodes. We have one episode where it just deals with Sid. David lives through Sid's life multiple times to try to figure. And I'll just read this right off the thing. David is unable to guess her meaning. Sid explains that she believes love will not save them, but pain can give them the strength to fight for love and allows them to wake up. Huh? So you have that one.
She did that whole monologue, and I was like, "Oh, here we go! It's going to be something revelatory." And I'm just going to be at the end. I'm like, I'm going to have to either go to bed and then read it again or something, because it really wasn't clear to me what she was meaning. I just could the meaning that I thought was like, "Hey, look, we have to get through this together in order to try and beat what's coming, and love would save them all." So, okay, so continue. What happens then?
So then 2 episodes later is the one where it's David in the multiverse.
Yep.
Where he's a bum, or he's suppressing his powers through medication, or he becomes the richest man in the world.
So what do they say the point of that episode was? Because I have a theory, but you're looking at something that tells us that there was a reason behind that.
I'm again, all I can do is read.
That's fine.
Remembering when Amy first took him to Clockwork Psychiatric Hospital and accepted that they had to live with the life they got, David returns to his life and accepts the version of events that led to Amy's death. So this is, I believe, in the wake of finding out how Lenny got her body, which is that Farouk killed his sister. And I guess that's the connection.
Well, I did see that, because my notes for that episode were that the purpose of it was to show his love for his sister.
Yeah.
And their relationship, because she's a quintessential part through each one of those timelines. She's his caretaker, and I think it's that one point where he's like a really old man and he's practically an invalid and can't even talk. The person I think that's taking care of him, I'm pretty sure it was his sister.
Yeah.
And then we see those other timelines where, she's definitely involved. So that was my takeaway from it.
Yeah, and it's fine, but like I said, I just feel like stretching the search for Farouk's body over 9 episodes, not counting the Sid episode, not counting the multiple lives of David, took forever.
It did. And I see what you're saying there, because it really seemed like they kind of focused on certain characters to kind of show how they got to where they were. Like they is it Melanie?
Yeah.
They
oh
did
my
like-
God! Every time they focused on her huffing the elephant, I was like,
Okay, like episode 9, my notes are drugs are bad. Okay.
"This is a very talky show."
Okay.
I just
We
it's
say
like
talky. What do you mean? There isn't a whole lot of dialogue, is there? Is that what you're trying to say?
I feel like it takes them. I just remember watching it, going. There are times where I'm just yelling, "Get to the point!"
Oh yes.
Like there's a lot of monologuing.
Okay.
Yeah, the second to last episode where Melanie is trying to explain to Sid that David's a piece of shit and that he's really evil, and that they need and she needs to let go of her perception of David because it's wrong, and she starts and everything. It's like I get it, but wow, that takes almost the entire episode to get to where they need to be, and it's like the actress playing her is fine and everything. I don't really have a problem with her. But her delivery of those lines and the direction that they went with, what they chose to go with, there's not a lot of drama there. It's kind of deadpan. So you have this long, almost episode-long explanation of why David's not really a good person, delivered with the same enthusiasm as someone reading the weather.
Just not enough. Not enough on it.
So, like the good things I like about season 2 are I still enjoy the visuals. I think it's a very visually interesting show. I love the season finale. I thought that was great.
Yes.
Audrey Plaza's naked ass.
Top of the list.
And occasionally there's an action sequence, which is kind of fun. I like watching the Indian girl hit people with a pole is always fun.
Aubrey's. Let's just switch back to Aubrey real quick. I mean, what do you think of her acting in this?
I love Aubrey Plaza. I think she's great. I eventually need to watch Ingrid Goes West, which is a movie that she stars in. I think it was on Hulu at one point. It might be on Netflix now, or vice versa. But I enjoyed her in the movie where the two guys need wedding dates or whatever. Where she gets high as fuck. She has a very interesting look. She's like a more updated, talented version of Fairuza Balk.
Okay.
Fairuza Balk had a very interesting look about her, and she had some real interesting meaty choice parts back when she was a hot thing. I feel like Audrey Plaza is like an updated version of Fairuza Balk.
Okay. Well, when it comes to acting in this show, she's got to be at least top 3.
Yeah, she gives them very interesting performances.
Yeah, Dan Stevens as David Haller.
If you hear me.
Yeah. So, aside from Big Papa Pump, his acting was done quite well. But I will tell you that Bill Irwin, as Carrie Loudermilk, the male half of the Loudermilks there, I don't know why, but his acting to me really stuck out, and it seemed like he just was whoever that guy was, this real agitated kind of, science guy that, and every time I watched him, it seemed like he did such a magnificent job portraying that character. Granted, he's not in the show, for very long times when he is, but every time I saw him on screen, he just had this, like, I don't know, this agitation about him, and it felt genuine. And I was like, this guy is whoever this character is supposed to be for sure, in my opinion. I don't know if the Loudermilks are. They must be in X-Men lore or mutant lore.
There's no hyperlink to them in the Wikipedia page.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised because I mean, of course, if they generated those characters around that just for this show, then again, I really like his acting for some reason. I like his look and the way he portrays Carrie.
I like the relationship between them.
Yes.
And I like this season that that they didn't do it for too many episodes, but there was a role reversal where she was out and he was the one that was in, and so she had never had to be used to living a normal life before. So like I don't know if you picked up on this, but there's an episode where like he's trying to teach her how to poop.
Oh yeah, I did.
It's weird, but I thought that was the best part of this season.
He's like, you have to wipe. I know. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Wait, poo comes out of my butt? Ew.
That was great.
So good. He's trying to get her to eat and everything. He's like, you have to keep your calories up. Like, it's great. It's good stuff. That's a fun relationship. In a show it can be kind of dour at times. I like that they used a bit of levity there. Mm-hmm. Let me. I've been talking a lot and just sort of exhaling a lot of my random thoughts about this show. Why don't you tell me some of your thoughts? You've got notes. Why don't you kind of go through your notes there and give me some of your most prominent thoughts about the show? Things that if we end the show before you say them, you're never doing a podcast with me again.
Here's how I think a lot of here's what I believe most of this show was about this season. And they spent a lot of time. It's kind of on the surface and on the nose, especially right at the beginning when they would talk about the idea of, something getting into your head and actually manipulating you into doing something that you never may possibly have thought to do in the first place. Now, granted, that's represented in the physical sense with this like crazy looking creature that comes out of an egg and goes into your brain and causes, I don't know if it causes insanity, but it definitely causes something to take place to make you do something or think a certain way. A specific example would be that episode where, David faces whatever that egg creature is after it actually manifests into this huge monster. But it's implanted in most of the members of the team there. What is his name? We have, I think it's in the mind of Ptonomy. I don't know if that P is silent or not, but Ptonomy and I think
it's just Ptonomy.
Ptonomy? Okay, Ptonomy. Yeah. And then who's the guy with the limp? What do you remember what his name is?
Clark.
The guy
Clark Debussy.
Clark. So it's in Clark's mind, and
let me help you out here. Ptonomy plants his fear in the minds of Sid, the Loudermilks, and Agent Clark Debussy, and they attack the android Vermilion, who serve Fukuyama. Clark almost murders the Admiral before David stops them and removes the delusions from their minds. This process is fatal for Ptonomy, but the Vermilion managed to save his mind by adding it into the mainframe that makes up Fukuyama's mind.
Yes, he does not die, at least not in the mental sense, because they bring him into that computer. But, a lot of that focused on, and the narrating stuff at the beginning focused on how, an idea can germinate into so much more. Just planning that one idea can lead you to think that there may be a conspiracy against you. Now, this was, again, represented in a physical sense, but throughout the whole of the series, that idea is played with. I can't remember, like, one or two episodes before the finale, where David just walks up to Carrie, and I think it's Clark, and touches their heads and says something, and he puts into play his final gambit against the Shadow King, because they all think that they come to this realization, or Carrie figures it out that David implanted in there, but they all think that they're on their own mission in order to try and kill or take out the Shadow King, when it's actually David who put all that in place and put all these pawns in place in order for it all to happen all at once. Aubrey's off in the distance, and she's got the gun, and she shoots the gun to try and take out. I think she's trying to take out the Shadow King initially, but then I think it's when Sid and David are facing off. She also gets involved there. But again, it's that idea of something getting into your head and making you and sending you down a path that you wouldn't have realized until sometime way after that. I mean, Mark, have you ever done something and realized that you've been manipulated into doing it?
Probably, and I'm sure a girl was involved.
Oh well,
probably a girl I wanted to sleep with. More than likely.
I think honestly that's a lot of what this season is about. It's about manipulation and making people do things for some type of grand result in the end. And what happens, at the end of this very series, David is a victim of his own, design. When he manipulates or erases Sid's memory of not falling in love, of not being in love with him, because she pretty much straight up tells him, "Hey, I'm not in love with you anymore," when she has him at gunpoint. And then all the shit goes down, and then he's like, "Okay, I've got to try and fix this. The only way that I can fix this is by manipulating her, erasing her memory, so that she will forget that she is not in love with him anymore." Well, that doesn't work. And you already talked about what happened. He ended up sleeping with her after they got back, and when Carrie actually saw what had occurred on whatever kind of 1970/2020 technology they have, when he saw that David did this, and then of course we have the trial of the Shadow King, which is not the trial of the Shadow King after all, and it's revealed what David did. And man, it's unfortunate, but he turns around, and as much as he tries to, number one, I can't blame him for trying to save his relationship with Sid. I don't blame him for doing that.
Yeah, have you seen that ass? Ooh.
I mean, dang. But, he went about it the wrong way, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and
rape
then,
is
course,
never a good thing.
The things that happened after that, I didn't take it. Well, I shouldn't say that, because obviously looking at it now, he clearly manipulated her, and he had, relations with her afterwards. But then again, what do you think of that? I mean, she wasn't an unwilling participant, correct, at that point in time?
Yeah, you're going down a dangerous road, buddy.
That's what I thought. All right.
Yeah,
get Bill Cosby on this podcast right now.
All right,
I want
listen.
Bill Cosby on.
you gotta. Let me just stop you and let us formally say that any manipulation of someone's person and then followed up with sex is a sexual assault.
Okay.
The more you know on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network.
I understand where you're coming from.
Like, it's no different than if he roofied her.
So, okay. All right. Well, because she did not have the full capability of her mental faculties at the time.
That is correct.
Was, okay. All right. So I will drink to that. But yeah, okay. So he committed that act, and as innocent as he thought it may have been, he's clearly in love with her.
Well, that's the thing, is like, he's looking at the bigger picture here. It's like, we're meant to be together, so this is okay. He's justifying a heinous act because he feels like the result is more important. The ends justify the means, and they don't, and it's wrong. And it's an example of the fact that he is kind of a shitty person. that when you strip away the Omega level mutant powers and the psychosis, deep down he's just a shitty guy. And he's not a hero. And that's one of the things I like about the show is that it has that same similarity that a lot of the FX show has, where your lead is a morally compromised bag of shit. And one episode you might be rooting for them, Vic Mackey, and another episode you're like, ooh, you're kind of a terrible person. The only show I never really got that with was Justified, by the way. Like, everything else I've seen, like, I used to watch Rescue Me on FX, and again, 1 minute you're like, you're with Dennis Leary, you're like, yeah, I hope you get your life together. I hope you stop seeing the ghost of your brother. And then another episode, you're like, I wish you would get run over by the fire truck. You're terrible. You know, Vic Mackey, one episode, you're like, yeah, shoot those Mexican drug dealers. Get them. We're rooting for you, sir. Another one's like, why would you rob the Armenian money train? You're a dope. I hope you get caught. You know, things like that. I haven't watched Sons of Anarchy, but I'm sure it's the same thing. So this is another situation where, like, on the one hand, you're rooting for him, like, you want him to get better, you don't want him to be crazy, you don't want him to be, you know, being manipulated by a parasite. And on the other hand, you're like, hey, wait a minute, you're terrible. Which leads me to the finale, which is, so they trap David in this elaborate cage, and, you know, they basically tell him, like, if you don't submit to therapy and medication, just going to kill you. You're too dangerous to be left alive in the current shitty, morally compromised condition that you're in. And his ego just goes crazy. And so they're like, no, I'm going to now revel in my own crapulence, as Mr. Burns would say. He's just like, you know what? I'm the most powerful man in the history of the universe. I don't have to put up with this nonsense.
He is left with nothing, though. He is a man with nothing to lose.
Bullshit! He's got Audrey Plaza's ass.
Well, let's not even go down that road, considering what it is in the body of what used to be his sister. Well, let's not. Yeah. But he's a man with nothing left to lose. He just sat there and watched the love of his life call him pretty much a rapist and say, you are sick. And she told him that, like, what, 2 days before, the day before, she didn't love him anymore.
Right.
I mean, she didn't know if she loved him anymore. I don't know if she told him that, but I know her conversation with Clark definitely shows you that Sid is no longer in love with him.
Right.
And all this falls apart in front of him. So he's just like, you know what? Fuck you guys.
Right.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't have to sit here and put up with this, and I don't need to.
He absolutely says, he's like, I don't have to put up with this. I'm rich.
Don't remember that.
That's Princess Druidia's line from Spaceballs.
Oh, okay, got it. So yeah, I mean, I on the one hand, I don't blame David's reaction. I mean, I would have loved for him to say, okay, well, look, yeah, I do need help, but obviously, if he is indeed crazy, which we pretty much know he is. I mean, he has a conversation with 3 of himself.
You know, he's clearly schizophrenic.
Yeah, he's got issues, so he's probably not going to go down that road very easily at all. This sets up season 3 to be great, I think. Yeah. This will be a good season 3.
Yeah, it was renewed, so it'll probably, I mean, if it comes back around the same time, it'll come back around, April? Is that what we said? Gosh, do we have any room on the schedule for April? Let's take a look.
2019?
Let's see. Well, it ended in June, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so we wouldn't want to wait for it to be over before we talked about it again. And, oh, look, there's no room.
You have no one but yourself to blame, sir.
Let's see. Got no room in June. How about July? Is July any better? Nope! And so look for us to discuss this again next September, maybe. Nope. There's no room there either.
What are you doing to yourself?
Let's see. October? No. Well, guess what we're not talking about next year.
No, that we're bumping something. We've got to bump something.
Let's see here.
Something will get bumped. Something will get bumped. We
Welcome
got
to-
plenty of time to figure that out. You don't have to go into it if you don't want to right now.
Welcome to the Rattle It Schedule Cast.
It turns into that somehow every time.
So, okay, so presumably it ends in June, right? Which means...
I would guess.
So July right now is Spider-Man, Top Gun, The Lion King, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which means we'd have to do it on a Thursday with no comic follow-up.
Nothing in the comics.
Which is fine, because after reading X-Men Legacy Volume 1, I don't want to read any more anything else with Legion.
We will actually be covering, I'm sure, are we doing Age of... No, we're not doing Age of Apocalypse, are we?
No.
Is that the one we're breaking down and doing... What's the one we're doing where it's like 4 months, or not 4 months, but 4 weeks
Onslaught.
straight? Onslaught, that's right. Get those mixed up. So yeah, I don't know, man. We'll have to find a place to put it in order to talk about what Season 3 will be. I mean, David as a villain is going to be...
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
I'm now way... Like, I was kind of interested in what Season 2 would be when he got trapped in the Globe. Now that... But him, like, full-on, ego somewhat intact. He's got Lenny by his side as his sidekick. He's mastered his powers. He's unstoppable. Like, what are you going to do with him? Like, he's... Like, I want to see where this is going. I also have to wonder, like, how abstract it's going to be. In the next season, because again...
Well, I mean, it could take... Yeah, you could take it to a different level now that he's letting his demons pretty much take hold.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you can... I don't know if you can get much more abstract than what we get, though. I mean, my goodness, I don't know how much farther you can take some of the visuals that we get. It'll be surprising. I mean, they always impress me. I'll tell you one of the things that stuck out to me this season is the damn cafeteria. I mean, was that not like the most messed up cafeteria that you've ever seen in your
I've
entire
actually
life?
seen something like that before, where it's got
Are
like
you
the floating
kidding?
thing where you just take stuff off of it. Yeah,
That is not healthy. I mean, you just don't put the food out there and send it on down the river so everybody can sneeze on it. I mean, I'm sitting there. I'm like, how old is that waffle?
I like
That
it in an abstract show about a powerful mutant. You're just like, there's their OSHA standards and not up to what they should
I'm
be.
telling you what. Okay.
Is it weird that I have almost every Tuesday in 2019 already booked?
I think you've answered your own question. It is weird, sir. It is. No, I think you're a good network network patriarch, and you're doing your due diligence to make sure the content is going to be served up right here on the Rattlich in Broadcasting Network.
God damn it, I try.
So tell me, before we go, I know we're probably going to be closing up here pretty soon, unless you got some other burning desires to talk about.
I'm good.
Your brain has done been melted. What was the most interesting, disturbing, appealing visual to you, or
Well, appealing visual, really?
Well, I know that one already. Let's try. Let's try for something that doesn't involve nudity.
Can we? That's my recommendation to the good people at FX and those who work on this show. Can we get more naked ass on the show?
My gosh.
Okay, so most fun abstract visual.
Doesn't have to be fun. It can be scary because they go out of their way to show you some disturbing stuff in this season.
I think that what stuck with me was the egg and the fear. Like the little oily golem creature that comes out of the egg.
How about chattering teeth? Didn't do much to you?
I wish it was something they hadn't done. Like, I found it more annoying than anything else.
Ugh. You work with probably some disturbed individuals. So
yes.
I could imagine that you've probably seen some stuff in your time. But, 40 people in a room, a dark room, all chattering in their teeth at once would unnerve the hell out of me. That was pretty scary.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what else. The voice from the fucking monk. Okay, when the monk would talk, I don't know if that freaked me out a little bit.
I honestly don't remember enough of it for it to have registered. And I'm not going to lie, there were parts of this that I actually dozed off during.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised one fucking bit. I wouldn't want to fall asleep watching this show, though.
Well, I binged watched it like Saturday, and before I went to go see the Happy Time Murders, which was a nice little palate cleanser after binge watching Legion.
Say, yeah, probably.
And then there would be times where like I'd be watching, and some stuff I went back and rewatched again because I dozed off and I didn't understand what was happening, like more so than normal. And then there were other times I'm just like I would just read the wiki and be like, yeah, I'm good here, not going back.
We're fine. Well, I think teeth chattering and food boats. There you go.
You're a simple man, Jessica Stark. All right.
This was fun, Mark Radlich. I come away with all the answers I needed tonight.
That's right. Aubrey Plaza's ass. That's all you need to know. That's answer enough for all of us. Please. Aubrey Plaza's ass for president. Anyway. Tomorrow night, if you enjoyed this conversation and you thought, well, here are two bright fellows who really have their pulse on the on the brain of America, we'll be back again tomorrow. This time we'll be discussing Alice in Chains' Rainier Fog on the Metal Hammer of Doom. And to gear up for that, you can check out some of our Metal Hammer of Doom extras. We reviewed the video for Wood, we reviewed the one for Dirt, and then a track off the new album. So that's all good in the hood. If you haven't had an opportunity to check out the last two source materials, Jesse, tell them, Jess.
Oh, my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a little something that dropped here this past today, as a matter of fact. Today's Tuesday. So we have, well, let's go back to Monday first. We already talked about, we did Legion, a series called X-Men Legacy. And it centers around the character Legion. The name of the story is Prodigal. Okay, we did the first 6 issues of that series, written by Simon Spurrier. And I'll tell you right now, we probably did a better job on that one explaining what was going on in there than we did here, just because it's a little bit more linear. But it's still a lot of crazy shit going on. It's Legion. He's psychotic, schizophrenic, whatever. And we do our best to kind of shove all that into half an hour. Go and listen to it at your leisure. Then grab yourself a porta potty or whatever you need. Sit down and grab the source material bonus extra content called Shark Prostitute. It's not about any comic book story. Me, Mark, and Ronnie discuss 20 villains. This is a list from CBR.com. 20 villains that the Hulk was defeated by. All right? And it gets to be an interesting conversation. We'll just put it that way. It's probably one of the funnier episodes I've put out. We're closing in on close to 200
Let me just say,
episodes.
By the end of that podcast, I was begging for it to be over because I had to pee really badly, and I was laughing really hard, and at some point, my bladder just tapped out.
And you get to hear every little bit of that on the podcast. Oh, so great. So me and Mark listen to it 3 times a day. So we've had just going back and enjoy it. You'll laugh.
People at work kept passing my desk going, "What are you smiling about?" It's just like, I peed. So anyway, this next week on the Rattlevision Broadcasting Network, Sunday night, David Wright from our Canadian office, friend of the show, hit me up and said, "Hey, how about talking some Disenchantment, the new Matt Groening show in the Futurama universe for a TV party tonight?" And I said, "Sure enough." Robert Winfrey will probably drop by and hang out with us, and we'll talk about it. we've got Bob Wire on the Source Material podcast. Not nearly as sexploitive as we thought it was going to be. It was just a fun comic book about a Skip Tracer chick in a weird, in a kind of a prostitute-y outfit. And then there's an on trial for Bob Wire, which is definitely sexploitive, with award winner Pamela Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Metal Hammer of Doom reviews the new Bullet for My Valentine on September 5th. And that's all for that week. The following week, we've got Exit Stage Left, The Snagglepuss Chronicles, which will drop on September 10th. Jesse and I will be back for another TV party tonight. We'll be reviewing Cloak and Dagger. And then finally, it's the one we've all been waiting for all year long. Jesse and I are going to review the book of Bad Decisions by Clutch.
Oh, cannot wait.
And then if we can get it together, we'll have a couple of friends of the show on, some female type girls. These are Sean's buddies, and we're going to talk a little Insatiable Season 1, the new Debbie Ryan project on Netflix that's getting some controversy. On the 17th, we've got a source material for Archie vs. Predator because it's Predator Week. We'll have a Damn You Hollywood for the new The Predator movie. We'll be reviewing the new Corporal Cloney, and then there'll be an on trial for the movie Predators by Shane Black on the 20th. Finally, we end September with The Immortal Iron Fist, the last Iron Fist story on September 24th. Myself and Robert Winfrey will be discussing Iron Fist Season 2. The Metal Hammer of Doom review Therapy with a question mark, Cleave, because my girlfriend says that I need help. My boyfriend says I'd be better off dead. You know what that's all about? You know what that's all about?
I have no idea.
You're going to learn.
I will. It's
going to be in your butt.
No. More music for your mental glory hole.
That's right. And then real quick, October 1st begins our all-month-long coverage of Halloween-type scary things. We're going to be, on the source material, we'll be looking at Deadpool, Dracula's Gauntlet. And Jesse, I know you've been waiting for this. It's time. Ozark Season 2.
Yeah, buddy.
October 2nd. Yes. It actually drops on Netflix August 31st, but, I just read you the whole calendar of shit we got going on, so...
I sure hope there isn't something that we desperately want to talk about show up within the next year.
It's too much content, not enough days.
It's the truth.
All right, take me home, buddy boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, go give the Rattlich in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. We are on Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn Radio. We're at home on Spreaker, and you can find us on Spotify as well. You've got all sorts of content to pick from there. We have MMA, we've got comics, we talk movies, we talk TV, just like we did tonight. And I'm sure there's something on there that you would enjoy.
Something that'll tickle your bag.
That's right. Your bag will be tickled. That's it. I'm ready to get out of here, Mark Rattlich. Everybody have a great one. I turn it back over to you, sir.
Yep, I got to go finish watching Episode 5 of Harlots and the Episode 3 of Ballers, and then I got to go to bed.
All right. Pleasant Aubrey Plaza dreams.
Oh, when Aubrey Plaza's in your dreams, they're always pleasant. And with that creepy goodbye, I want to thank Jesse Starcher for coming on our show. Be well, be safe, and behave.
The two megastars summer mashup. The awesome iPhone on the Rockstar Metro PCS network. Get the iPhone you've always wanted for $0 so you can jam without limits.
It's a hit. Get an iPhone SE on us when you switch. Metro PCS. Coverage not available in some areas, plus sales tax and $10 activation fee. Requires port of number not currently active on T-Mobile network or on Metro PCS in past 90 days to an unlimited LTE plan. See store for details and terms and conditions.